Hello and welcome to the Siwi Sofa, where we sit down with some of the most interesting participants at the World Water Week to learn more about the array of water-related issues being discussed this week in Stockholm. My name is Eric Paglia, host of the Siwi Sofa, and in this session, convened by Veolia, we're going to be discussing the circular economy in the context of the water sector. And joining me, we have representatives of 4 multinational companies that are major stakeholders in the water sector. We have Johann Clere, Open Innovation Director at Veolia. We have Ron Bohlmeijer, Senior Global Lead Water at Heineken. We have Hubert Genieys from Nestlé Water, and Muzi Chonco, Environmental Manager at SABMiller. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Very nice to have you here on the Siwi Sofa. And perhaps we can start with you, Johann. If you could explain to us the concept of the circular economy, and what does it mean for water professionals like those gathered here in Stockholm?
Well, circular economy, that's basically a shift, a paradigm compared to linear economy, where people are used to extract, manufacture, and then dispose waste. So basically, the idea is to create like a small loop and unleash new shared value opportunities. For the water industry, you know, today just 5% of the water is being reused globally. And in terms of waste management, every year 4 billion of tons of waste are generated, but only 25% are today being repurposed. And so today, out of wastewater, you can create bioplastic, you can create biogas, biofertilizer, but also reusing water to trade that with third party and create new financial revenue stream.
I mean, it seems to me that water is actually very well suited to the circular economy concept because water itself is thought of as moving in a cycle, correct?
Yes, exactly. And you can have big loop, but also very short-term loop. Like I'm taking always this example of an ice cream factory in Colombia that instead of discharging for free treated wastewater, they say, well, maybe there's an opportunity to create a new financial revenue stream by selling the treated wastewater to people blending concrete next door, for example.
And you yourself have taken part in shared value creation initiatives previously within the oil and gas and mining sectors. What challenges do those industries face?
Well, this sector is very interesting, oil and gas and mining. Sometimes you have some sites that are water negative. So for them to ensure long-term water security, what we start to see is a different way of investment. They start to invest in upgrading municipal wastewater treatment plant to ensure long-term water security and then create also shared value for the local stakeholders. In the meantime also, we have kind of magic in the circular economy for water because you have a lot of sites that are actually water positive. So in California, when you extract 1 barrel of oil, you also extract 30 barrels of water. So this water, when being cleaned, that can become a very essential byproduct.
So Ron, perhaps you can tell us about the main challenges that Heineken faces in the water sector.
Yeah, we have about 160 breweries in 70 countries, and at least 35 of these are situated in water scarce areas. Water is a very important commodity for our product. Beer is 95% water, but we also use it in the rest of our supply chain. And so we have to be very careful how we manage water. And that is one of the aspects that especially in water scarce breweries, that we are quite keen on protecting the resource by, so on one hand, being as efficient as possible. And on the other hand, we have a commitment that we will return the water that we do not return to the local watershed. That's the water what we put into our product and say the unavoidable losses. That this flow is balanced by projects, say protecting the watershed or stimulating that more water will be retained in the watershed.
What are some of the most visible projects you're undertaking in terms of water stewardship in water scarce areas?
Now, I think the most good working project is in Mexico. Our Monterrey brewery is supporting the Monterrey Water Fund, and that is its objective of this project is to protect the local water resources of the San Juan River shed by protecting the ecosystem stream upwards of the city. And so we can guarantee the water supply both in quantity and in quality.
And is Heineken planning on situating its operations within this idea of the circular economy?
we are busy with it. We don't have any. Where we are exploring options. We have a number of pilots, not all successful, but we are slowly moving into the space.
And Hubert, perhaps you could tell us about how Nestlé Water is applying the principles of the circular economy.
Yes, we are looking at three different main components: water, obviously, energy, and packaging waste. On water, we are trying to minimize the quantity of water we use and to work in an inclusive manner with the local community in which we are involved. As you know, we are sharing aquifer. And we develop water stewardship program in order to create economic, social, and environmental benefits. For energy, obviously, we are engaging more and more in renewable energy in order to minimize and to improve our environmental impact. And finally, packaging is one of the key components for us. Obviously, we are the main majority of our product are produced in PET. PET is a specific plastic which is fully recyclable. So the key question for us is the collection rate of this plastic bottle. 100% of this plastic can be reused. The question for us is the collection. So we are developing different type of model, depending the region of the world in which we are operating, in order to improve on a regular basis the collection ratio to ensure that we will reuse the packaging that we use for our product.
So packaging is one of the key areas for the circular economy principle within Nestlé Water then?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, and we are definitely improving year after year. We have, first of all, we apply the principle of circular economy, starting by eco-design. Each product that we are launching, obviously, is using a life cycle analysis, which is helping him to develop the best environmental solution. Okay. Secondly, we are reusing the plastic which is not used for the bottle for other type of usage. We are partnering with other company in order to facilitate the reuse of this plastic packaging. And finally, as I said before, we are working with different type of stakeholders in order to improve at local community level the collection ratio. And we have very good results. If I can give you only one example, in Canada, for instance, in the Manitoba region, we have worked with the local communities in order to put in place new collection systems which allow us to collect more than 75% of the plastic bottles that we are delivering.
Very good. And Muzi, perhaps you could tell us about how the concept of the circular economy fits within the sustainable development strategy at SABMiller.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I think for us at SABMiller, the concept of the circular economy is not a new one. We've always bought into this idea of a closed loop in terms of our operations. Now, you'll appreciate that brewing, by and large, it's a localized operation that is very highly dependent on natural resources in terms of barley, hops, and water that we use. So it's of great benefit to us to ensure that we can get full utilization from these materials and also full value, throughout the life cycle of the materials from cradle to grave. So therefore, then it's something that we've always done. Now, if you look at our sustainable development strategy, which we updated about 2 years ago, we now have 5 strategic pillars, or what we call shared imperatives. And we have themed this along the sort of world we want to see. Now, one of those worlds that we've created or that we aspire for is what we call a clean world. And basically what this clean world talk about is how best we utilize these resources and make sure that we minimize the production of waste throughout our value chain. And we have set very particular targets in terms of how we're going to do this, in terms of minimizing waste produced, but as well as dealing with issues of carbon emissions and those sort of things.
Do you believe you'll be able to manage and reach an almost totally circular stage of the components of your supply chain going forward?
Yeah, look, I strongly believe that's definitely our aspiration as a company. And I think what for me has become very exciting is that normally if you look at this concept, you will think it will be best adopted, let's say, in a developed world. But we've actually, had some great examples coming from some of our countries or markets in developing world. For example, in Africa, where I come from. A great example would be if you see what they are doing in our Alroad Brewery in South Africa, which is the largest brewery in Southern Hemisphere. Now, what they've done in terms of treating our wastewater, they've introduced these anaerobic digesters, where we collect the wastewater that comes out of production. We treat it with obviously microorganisms, which then produces methane. We collect the methane and we use that as fuel in one of our boilers, which then produces steam for the brewery. And if you look at the numbers right now, almost 8 to 10% of the energy needs or requirements for the plant is now renewable energy coming from this process. But more so, the water now that we release to the system is almost 80% cleaner than the compliance standards that are required. And I think for me, that's a typical example of this closed loop where nothing really goes to waste. What you see as waste of one process becomes input into the next process. In Tanzania, there's also a slightly different example there. They've adopted a very innovative, what they call it, dry dehusking. So basically is that when you take your grain, your malt grain, you dehusk it before you put it through the process, meaning you're going to be using lesser water, lesser energy for processing. But the husk that is left behind, we then collect it and we use it as biofuel in one of our boilers again, so that we can have renewable energy. And the ash that comes out of that is then given to the local farmers to use as fertilizers. So again, you can see how this process and how waste move from one area to the next, and it's being utilized and adding value. So I think, and therefore then to your question, I strongly believe if we continue to do this, we will get to that level where we can achieve it. Yeah.
From what, would you like to follow up on that? Or, I mean, what I was going to say is that from what all you've described here, there's a very strong, obviously a very strong sustainability case for the circular economy, and also a very strong business case. So why do you think we haven't moved at this point, moved further from the linear to the circular economy? What barriers do you encounter, and how do you plan on overcoming such barriers? And that's open to all of you.
Yeah. Look, I mean, if I have to start on our side, I think, if you notice, for this to work, it got to happen across the value chain, which means that there's got to be interaction and buy-in with stakeholders along the value chain. So it's not something you can do on your own internally. For instance, if at some stage we need to produce, let's say, ash that must be used as a fertilizer, it means that the farmers must buy into that. So I think a collective action around this concept where multi-stakeholder approach is adopted and the stakeholders buy to this and do it together will then fast-track the adoption, other than individual players focusing on doing it in their operations. I think that's what we need to get right.
Johann?
Well, on my side, circular economy, all the technology are already there to tackle and unleash new opportunities. You're talking about the business case, and that's the tricky part. Because if you want to reuse water, when water is priced at $1 per cubic meter of water, then the payback of reusing might be 20 years, So that's very challenging, and you need forward-thinking company like SABMiller, Heineken, or Nestlé to be able to really understand also what's the true cost of water. For example, when you're talking about water reuse, understanding the risk and opportunity behind water, then you have a clear business case, and decision maker can sign to unleash again new opportunities around circular economy. So again, technology are there. Like we say, we need a better platform for stakeholder engagement. It's really putting the business case, understanding the externalities around waste, energy, and water, which is something which is critical.
Yeah, we have the pilots in place. That what you say, that the technology is there, but it is a matter of the business case, and it depends on from place to place where you can implement, say the circular economy. Wastewater, what you say, it is costly to reclaim it, to reuse it. It's cheaper to buy water from a water supplier. But on the other hand, if water is a constraint, then it can always become beneficial to do it. And then you overcome the business case.
So it's quite place dependent, you would say.
Yeah.
And would you like to?
No, I would say again, it gets back to the life cycle analysis. You have to identify the various impact level in which you want to operate. You have to take strong commitments. And getting back to your question, I would say the most critical part is to change the mindset. Meaning when you look at your operation, you have to have people, to educate people, to go beyond their operation impact towards more inclusivity, which is not simple. And also you have to take into consideration the various cultural approach which can exist throughout the world. I can give you an example, for instance, in the US versus Europe, for instance. In the US, as you know, legal is driving a lot of activities. If I am compliant with law, finally I have the right to act. And sometimes it can generate some bad impact regarding local communities, because it's not because you have the right to do something that you are perceived as a good citizens. So you have to change the mindset. You have to go beyond your impact and to understand how local citizens, local community are judging you, what are they expecting from you. And I would say the change of mindset is taking time.
You all represent major multinational corporations. Where do you see the change coming from? I mean, you talk about the importance of place. Muzi, you mentioned the importance of supply chains. Is it on an industry level? Is it on a corporate level? Is it on a national, international level? Where should we look to find change and moving towards a circular economy? And how do we go about doing that?
I think it should come from the local level. And from the local level we can go up to national level and then to corporate level. But it's a matter, we should start somewhere. Sure. And then, so the stakeholders must get used to it. And then you can extend your activities.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, yeah, I think I will definitely agree with that and say, you know, the sooner we can also develop the market for it. So in other words, somebody must be willing to consume this, therefore then it will go. A typical example, let's take water. I mean, we always speak about water recycling, but if you go out there and you start speaking to people and you tell them that, you know, water from sewage, it's now drinking water, just generally because we're not used to that, people frown upon that. They don't want to consume that water, which is about awareness. I think changing that behavior and awareness at the consumer level will start driving some of this and then create a business case and the demand for some of the products. Yeah.
Well, on my side, I think we have to move from risk management to short-term opportunities to capture. And the big trend, I think what is very, very positive, is that circular economy was used to be looked at by the sustainability manager. Then it moved to local operation, global operation. But now we're now talking to chief financial officer of large organization. The insurance company is getting on board. So meaning that in the short term, you are able to capture short-term financial opportunities behind long-term risk management. And I think the fact the financial community is coming on board on the circular economy, the circular is there, but the business case was missing. And more, with the community coming on board, I think that's going to open some fantastic, again, opportunity for the market.
Yeah, but also legislation should be ready for it. And because we are in many countries talking about water reuse, but on the other hand, in a lot of countries, even in Europe, it's still not accepted by law. And so we have to overcome first that hurdle, and then we can continue.
Would you say that water is at the vanguard of the circular economy and moving in that direction, as opposed to some of the other materials and other sectors?
Well, on my side, you know, waste to energy, it already exists. Waste to secondary resources. Water, I think it's natural because you have different opportunity. But again, water which is very tricky because today it has no real value. It has big value for ecosystem, for people, but money-wise, you know, we are still struggling. And so again, by better understanding externalities, that will be easier to look at a circular economy model for the water management, which is easier for energy because energy has a better price and a better market value currently.
And perhaps we can close by going back to the water sector and talking about the most significant changes you all see in your respective companies in the use of water and sort of the appreciation of water in the years ahead.
Well, there's two big things happening. Again, the fact the insurance companies are starting to look at that, the financial community, rating agencies like Moody's or Standard & Poor's. Moody's recently released a paper on the impact of credit rating for mining company around risk management. So again, that will help to build the right business case. The other big trend is also market disruption. The Hubert for waste, the Airbnb for water are emerging. So new platform where people can physically trade water. We have the example of Source Water in the US for trading water in the shale gas industry. So that's something very new. But again, I think that will open some new opportunities to create very short-term loop in terms of trading water and circular economy.
For me, it's about collaboration. We need collective action. We need to look outside the premises of our breweries and to collaborate with other stakeholders. Water is a shared resource, and local water problems can only be solved by collective action with all the stakeholders involved.
Yes, agree. I think it's definitely collective action and the capability of expert company as us to take our role for local communities and to share, to educate people, and to be ready to work collectively together.
Well, I think on my side, agreeing with the colleagues, but also there is now beginning to be the appreciation of the role that, for example, water plays in terms of business continuity. I think for the longest of times, we always seen water as something that will always be there. But in the last few years, we've been seeing a lot of cases where, for instance, operations have closed down purely because of water, challenges. So I think, the commercial value of water in terms of business continuity is beginning to be realized. And I think that is therefore then forcing companies to take serious in terms of how we manage the waters and also in terms of the broader viewing it beyond just the factory fences, because it is a serious risk. So I think we are finding that movement, yeah.
Well, gentlemen, it's been a fascinating discussion on the place of water in the circular economy. I wish you all the best in helping to achieve this. And thank you very much for joining us here on the Siwi Sofa.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thanks for tuning in to the Siwi Sofa. Stay tuned for more episodes throughout the World Water Week.